to Unstoppable Consciousness Tribe. I'm super excited about today's guest. This is going to be one big, bad, wonderful conversation about healing, transformation, and anything else that comes on the table today. My friend and dear longtime friend and colleague Kevin Longpre is here, and he is an osteopath, a very powerful transformation person who's helped me many times to recognize and realize what's going on in my body and my energy system and my brain, and help me absolutely make massive changes in accordance to what had to happen next for my own evolution. So Kevin, welcome to the show. I'm so excited that you're here. I can't wait to dig into a conversation with you. How's it going today?
Oh, everything's amazing. Easter Sunday, egg hunts with the kids. No, it's good. I'm really happy to be here.
Well, I am too. So I want to just dig right into all the conversations that I know that we can have. And I want to start with this because for me, you're really an extraordinary, powerful person in the work that you do. And I know there's a lot of really talented osteopaths, but for me, you've always been a little bit, you've just got that extra something. And I'm allowed to say it, maybe you're not, but I'm definitely allowed to say you've got that extra something that just brings the experience to another level. So I just want to start with, what made you decide to do this work? What interested you? How did this call to your life to become an osteopath and everything that goes along with it?
Well, good question. It really honestly happened organically. Like I was in university and I was in sciences, and I always wanted to be an engineer until I figured out I hated engineering. So I had to figure out, okay, well, what am I going to do now? And I had a buddy of mine that was in athletic therapy at the time. That was my first degree at Concordia, was in athletic therapy. So he got me to go check it out and basically see what was going on there. And I enjoyed it. It was through that I met other osteopaths that had their own clinics and everything else too. And so that got me interested in this art form, basically, that I found really interesting. And the fact that, you know, the guy was coming in for, let's say, an ankle sprain, and this guy's working on his head. It didn't make any sense to me at the time, but I said, I got to learn this. So I joined osteopathy right away, and it was that was a blessing. I really love what I do. So it's for me is, you know, I just kind of fell into my lap.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, I'll tell you what, you know, you're extremely talented at it. And and it's really true for those of you who have never seen an osteopath. It really is true. Like, I've gone in to see you and we're like, yeah, here's what's going on. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. And you're like, wow, it's down here. I'm like, what? It's on my knee? What? You know, like the body conversation that you have compared to what we have as just regular folks, regular human beings, is extraordinary. And I find, like, for me, that's a conversation I think is so important to have, like the body, the energy in the body, the expression of it. Tell me about what happens for you. Like, how do you experience your work? Like, what happens? Like, what's going on?
Well, that too in itself, like it definitely wasn't like that for me in the beginning. Okay. You know, there is an evolution that happens as you, if you want to say it, the more connected you get with yourself, you know, you grow as a person, you grow as a professional. But I can remember early on in my career where you be working on someone, and, you know, we learned that in osteopathy, where you learn how to feel things with your hands. But if you're able to tap into what's universal in terms of the universal energy, well, then that's where the real information comes from.
So, my favorite subject.
when I would start, at first, I would get information about who I was working on. And when I say get information, for me, it's not like I hear a voice or anything. It just comes to me.
It's like a body conversation, or like an
yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's more of an understanding that way. And at first I thought, oh, maybe I'm just putting stuff into my head, you know, and until I tested it and I finally figured out a way, well, how do I ask this person without telling them, listen, I'm kind of getting that you're, you, something's up with your dad, or I don't know, whatever it may be, or what was relevant at the time.
Yeah.
I figured out a way to ask them in an indirect way so that they would kind of bring it up to me. But
Yeah.
then it started validating everything I was feeling from that person.
Incredible.
So then that ended up being a huge tool in helping with getting to the real reasons why people are let's say either in pain, whether it be physical, emotionally.
Right.
So it's the same thing. So
Yeah.
quite often we got to dig deeper. Those are the cases I like more, or the ones that we get to actually have fun with and see them either get over something and go down to something more important in their life, you know? So for me, that's the type of person that I would love, that I like working with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if I understand correctly, and I can relate to it because I've understood this in my work, the more that I grow into the profession of what I'm doing, and
Yeah.
the more that we expand and, you know, we learn about the first stage of evolution, which might be like the human body. And then there's the energy body, and then there's the cells of the body, and then there's the organs of the body, and then there's the emotions that live in the body. And then there's the higher levels of awareness that can be exchanged through a healing conversation or a session or an interaction like that. Happened in particular for you, and I can relate because it's happened to me too. The more that I've grown in my awareness and my transformational internal properties, like I understand more, that I get into the expansiveness of all of what we're made of as human beings, as
Yeah.
energy beings, the deeper your work has become and the more you've built trust around your abilities. Because I've experienced that with you, like I
Yeah.
literally have weaved, I know because of who I am and how we can really go to another level of your work, and which is just a blessing for me. I mean, I think all healing is relevant and all transformation is relevant, you know what I mean? But
Yep.
for you, your ability to go with me to these places is extraordinary. And to have the body be the leader of the conversation, or the pain point be the leader of the conversation.
Yeah.
That's really, for me, that's like I get an adrenaline rush, like my hair standing up, just thinking of that experience, because that's not my skill, but that's your skill. Like it's a talent that's beyond what for me is normal. Okay. Like to be able to translate this kind of information and turn it into like a person's change, like
Right.
literally, like that just doesn't, this is what I've had happen to me with you. It's like, oh, that doesn't exist anymore. What happened?
Mm. Yeah.
You heard my body, you translated my body, you translated the emotions back to me. We did some conversation. We went through, you were working, like doing, I don't know what the hell you're doing. You're figuring this thing out. You're helping me totally realign and adjust. And I'm like, whoa, like, and then 2 days later, I'm like, wow, that's not there anymore.
Mm.
That understanding or that pain or that misinterpretation that I'm having with life or my experiences, it doesn't exist, which is for me, like my whole point of doing the show is because that's what consciousness does. It brings an unstoppability to it. It
Yeah.
brings, right? Can we
Trueness to it
talk
too.
more about that? Like how you feel about that and how you experience and where you want to, how you want to serve people?
Mm. Well, maybe we backtrack a little bit too. It's not always that easy with everyone, because there, you know, there's people. The way I see it is, you have to help the person at the stage they're at. So
Yes.
obviously, we could go a little bit further with you and people that are maybe more self-aware
Okay.
uh, at that point. But
Yeah.
there are times where it's planting a seed. It's getting someone to start to realize. I think ultimately the goal is, and my job is, to create a responsibility in that person for their own self. And if they can realize that they are the only ones that can change that,
So
well,
good.
then what you're going to do is going to be that much bigger, that much more impactful, because they're not relying on someone else to give them something they think they need to be whatever it is they want to be.
That's so powerful. That
They're
is
the
so powerful.
they're the only ones that can do that. So
So powerful.
I think that's why you know, there's been instances too where people come in and then I don't see them again.
Yeah, they don't want what you got.
No,
Not because of you, because of them. They don't want to go
they're
there.
they're
Yeah.
either not ready, or which is
Yes.
totally fine. And
Yeah.
so, you know, I think that's why at the clinic, our clinic in particular, you know, we're pretty good at trying to pair people with who they should be with.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and in due time, whenever whenever people are ready, then I'd always be there for sure. But
That's interesting because the name of the clinic is Vitality
therapy, yeah,
Multitherapy.
yeah,
So, which is interesting because you do a variety of things, but you also have places for people to go and grow and
yeah,
expand. You know what I mean? And you're concerned about that. You're making sure that that's important when people walk in the door, that they're fitted and they get what they need, which says
yeah.
everything about the values and the integrity of everybody there and you guys. You know what I mean? Which is like, to me, you're like the best clinic in Montreal. Like, I don't care, I'll say it. Like, for me, you guys are the best. You know,
Wow, that's
because of
very
that.
sweet.
Yeah.
Well, listen, it took a long time to, I think, for us as business owners too, to recognize and be true to what we really wanted the clinic to be, have the people there that fit that mold.
Yeah.
I think that's something that even now, and we'll dive into that after
Yeah.
perhaps, but some mentorship programs that we're doing now for osteopaths as well. And the biggest thing we're trying to teach people is exactly what we were talking about. Is how do you make that connection with the person?
Yeah.
The truer that is, the more impact you'll have.
Mm,
Um, and honestly, it's getting out of the way. Most of the time, the reason why things don't work is because you're getting in the way.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yes.
which I'm sure you can relate.
Oh yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, this is like everyone's main issue of, and even now with what's going on
Mm-hmm.
with the whole pandemic, you know, we have an opportunity now to kind of reset ourselves, and some people are fighting that
Yeah,
quite
and
a bit.
it's so important. Like, I think that's a great conversation to have. But I do want to say how much I honor you guys and I honor what you're doing and what you're up to because it's so important. And for me, it's really important what you're saying because that's the turnkey, right? It's like I'm there to be a conduit for you to find yourself and know that responsibility isn't so bad and that
Yeah,
whatever you're going through, you got this. And I'm
yeah,
holding space for that. I'm not going to fix it. I can't heal it for you, but I can definitely help you find your way to that space where you're, for me, because that's the key, right? Like, I know when we've worked together and, you know, in our conversations, that's something that's so important is that
yeah,
a person lives in their full embodiment of self, physically, emotionally. Like, you know, you've mentioned this to me many times and I share that with others as well. Is like, you gotta fill yourself up with yourself. You know what I mean? And I want to talk a little bit about that because I think that's
mm,
important as we talk about what's going on in the
yeah.
world because that's the key, right?
Well, it's funny. I we were with some neighbors yesterday where we were kind of just standing more than 6 feet apart talking about stuff, and one of them was asked. I had said at one point, I think she was saying she she worked a lot with the public. She said, I just find I get so drained when I work with people. And
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, I could give you some tricks not to get drained. I said, you gotta. She goes, oh yeah, my friend told me to put this bubble around me. I said, okay. I never liked the bubble thing.
Mm-hmm.
I said, or you can occupy your space.
Which is like very, very powerful. And can you explain what that means so people really understand?
Sure.
Yeah.
Uh, with most clients that I have that I try and explain occupying your space is obviously it translates to you being who you are to its fullest and letting that express itself.
Mm-hmm.
So in order for that to happen, we have to, like most things, get it out of our minds and have a true connection back to your heart again.
Yes.
So there are techniques that we show, like a heart centering technique to help people do that. And a lot of it is just getting feeling back again, right? So
Mm-hmm.
whether or not it's and I don't think it's ever happened where it's taken more than 30 seconds for me to do that with someone.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and they're shocked at how, you know, there's ways we can show them how they're back again, you know. We often joke saying it's putting the person back in the driver's seat, you know.
Yes.
So you want that person success with anything, regardless therapy, like life itself. This is the main issue is if you can have a true heart mind connection, well then you're way ahead of the game. Yeah, way ahead again.
What are the benefits of being fully embodied in yourself and getting back into that place inside?
Well, some are truly physical. Like there are huge physical benefits to that. So like if
Yeah.
we look at with, let's say, this crisis in particular. So most people's anxiety levels went way up.
Yeah.
Um, Now the problem with that is that anxiety driven behavior creates disease, or
Mm.
the state where disease would mostly express itself.
Mm.
So your adrenal system gets shot. Your rest and recovery is on in the back seat because you're just in that state where you're always anticipating something bad happening.
Yeah.
Um, so a lot of people say that where they'll say, yeah, but I'm not stressed. Um, okay.
Yeah, you always do that too. You're always like, okay, yeah, yeah, I'm having another conversation here.
Yeah, it's hard to not make the face, but but so then so then yeah, it's just showing people. I think a lot of it is just a misconception, or a lot of getting out of your mind. So if you get back to that, then just as a technique, let's say, and these are just basic ones, but so we always give that heart. Geez, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, a heart centering technique, but we get them to basically either one have their hand there so that they can actually
Yeah,
feel themselves back in their body again. You know, a
absolutely.
lot of it is like people are just so disconnected. They're
Yeah.
living just in their head that
Yeah.
they have zero connection to their body. Right?
Yep.
So getting them to feel that, getting them
Mm.
to think of something that will drive an emotion that's maybe a little bit more heightened, that will bring them back into feeling that positive emotion again,
Yes.
bringing them back into the heart. So
Yep.
either anything to do with love, obviously,
Yep.
and the gratitude would be trumping any of them.
My favorite. Oh yeah. It's my favorite.
Uh, so putting that into practice on a more regular basis will have more of an impact on your heart coherency,
Mhm.
on your overall being, your connectiveness to universal energy.
Mhm.
Whether it's you doing a project or doing things in your life that you want to be more specific with, if you're not in that seat,
Mhm.
you're going to get drawn into all these different paths that you don't necessarily want to go down. It'll just make the process that much longer. And the more we can honor that and respect the fact, I really think it's a lot easier than it needs to be if
Right.
you can do it more regular.
I completely agree too. Like, because it's not the same, but the same, with clients
Yeah,
when just bringing everybody back into that state. Because for me, and I know we can have this conversation where, because the body and the true energetic self kind of meet in the heart, because
yeah,
that's the expression of that true love, that unconditional love space. And when you get back there, you remember so many things about who you are and how you want to feel. And what I understand you're saying is, when we're out of that space, and then the energy system, the adrenals, the nervous system will pull
yeah,
you out of it because you have all these other things on your mind. Can I say it in a way where then your mind takes on and follows the tension, follows the nervous system into like that wild space of not knowing where you are, of anxiety, of stress, because you're not in this place of love inside.
yeah.
You're not with yourself. Like, because I've found, you know, you've surprised me a few times about that when we've worked together. I'm like, no, I love myself. No, you're not connected. What's going on in a particular area? And
Sure.
whenever we've worked on coming back to myself in a particular area where I have pain or overwhelm, or I'm not resolved or healed around that memory, that way I think, that history, uh, I'm following the wrong road,
Yeah.
right? I'm following the wrong ideas, the wrong mindset, the wrong everything. And then you're just creating this crazy reality, you know?
Yes. And we do that quite often, eh?
Right.
Listen, we're this is human nature too. Like we're
Yeah.
fighting through the adrenal response, which has been there to keep us alive for God knows how long. We're no longer in a place where we're getting chased by animals or anything like that, where we need to run or kill it or what. Our
Yeah.
system is still kind of in that zone where it's hyper receptive to stresses around, whether it's self-inflicted to stuff around us, like what's going on right now.
Yeah.
But I think the recognition of that, the practice of resetting yourself more often will be of a huge benefit, not only for you recovering physically from any pain you're having, but for you moving on emotionally and spiritually.
Mm.
Being able to reconnect on a more regular basis is the, everything you need is already in existence. So if we can just connect to it, well, then you're tapping into something that's feeding you constantly. And it's just that we get distracted from that reality because we have all these stories we make up about how things need to be. And I think I really do believe, though, that there is a big shift of consciousness happening.
Oh, yes. Let's talk about that.
Well, and I think honestly, this is the whole reason why this is happening right now. I really think the energetically what's going on is that we've reached a point where it just makes zero sense the way we're going.
Yeah.
And it needed to stop. Like we joke, like my wife and I were talking maybe a month or two before this all happened, but this is a repeated conversation. Like we'd always say, we'd be joking around because either we're not the hugest technical people around, so like we have phones and that, but I really don't like being on it, and I try not to be. But it's hard with work and different things. You get kind of dragged into that, and then all of a sudden we were thinking it'd be great if just something happened and wiped all of that out. Mind you,
There you go.
it wasn't the technological one I was thinking was going to happen, but but regardless, and I think we really tried to talk about it and say, well, what are we going to do here? Are we going to get sucked into this fear-based, oh my God, everyone's looking at the news and no, there's this many deaths here and there. I'm like, okay. Not to say that it's sad. It happens every year with every other flu that's going around. And then, I get that we need to be precautious about what's going on. But this is a time also where you can reset yourself and really look. Like we kind of looked at, okay, how are we living? What would we change? We have the chance to do it now.
Amazing model. Yeah, that's amazing.
You want to go back when this is all over and go back to the same exact thing you were doing before?
Yes.
So it gives you a chance to actually analyze that and say, like, okay, are we in a good place? What could we change? And move on from that.
Yeah,
so
what can we do differently? That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's so crazy too, because it's like, for me, like some of the stuff I've been connecting to really in my own journey of connection and, just listening, really listening deeply, because I believe we're connected to everything. So to each other, to the earth, to the cosmos, to the universe, whatever words match a person. I believe that because I feel it. So, and what I've learned now, and I wanted to talk about the adrenals because I think it's important. Like I know resetting, coming back to the heart is really important, but I know now because you've taught me years ago, when your adrenals kick in, Lisa, there's something that happens to you. And if you can get it and know that that's your adrenals, everybody's got them, but that's your way your adrenals say, whoa, because your adrenals are trying to tell you about your response. And if we can listen without getting more into the stress, overwhelm, anxiety, and just listen to the response, because it's an automated system in the physical reality as a species, we're part of nature, right?
Yep. Oh, and it serves a purpose.
Yes. Yeah, so how can we just give the audience a little bit about how do we work with that response and make it a little bit easier to understand? Do you have a couple of tricks just to help? Because I think that's a big problem right now.
Yeah, for sure. Well, because most people that come in, I would say, are in probably overdrive.
Yeah.
So that's an easier one to diagnose, because you're looking at people that have hit this stress over and over and over, and their system's so worn that now they're starting to have sleep problems. They're starting to have digestive problems. They're starting to have recovery things that they're in pain, and normally they get over it, but now they're not. They're sick all the time. That's that's the response of the body when it's been abused, through the adrenal system shooting cortisol into your body over and over again.
Okay.
You can be in, so there's, to make it simple, there's 3 stages. You could have acute fear, acute stress. You can
Okay.
have prolonged stress, and then
Yeah.
you can get to the point where your adrenals are now fatigued and no longer producing the stress hormone.
Okay.
That's a burnout.
Okay.
That's like an end result, right?
Okay.
But
That's the worst
that's how
point.
you would get there. And you can have people that spend a lifetime on that cycle and they'll never reach that burnout part.
Okay.
But then you have other people that spend a couple months in it and they do have the burnout.
Okay.
So you have to gauge the person's response. But I think if people get to know the signs and symptoms of what that represents, then they can catch themselves more often. And normally it's pretty easy. Something will happen. Pay attention to how you're reacting.
They love it. Yeah.
You know, so you'll see something happen and right away people are reactionary and something blurts out, or the way they're handling it is just the same old way they would always do it. Well, that's the fear system that's taking over.
Okay.
So like you said, that's exactly the whole point, is you want to take a step back, look at what you're doing. How are you reacting? Okay, is that the way I want to handle things? No.
Right.
Okay, well, take a second and think about it.
Yes.
Calm yourself down. There's techniques you can do. There's a whole bunch of breathing stuff that we suggest to clients all the time. Sometimes it's more mindset things we'll do with people, but you need some sort of routine, one of which, number one, is recognition of where you're at, what state you're in.
Yeah.
And then from there is just, okay, well, now how do I want to handle this now? And that way, at least your system starts to get better at modulating itself back into normalcy. So then you're going from that stress response back down to a more normal middle ground for your nervous system.
Yeah.
So then, you know, the what they call the sympathetic parasympathetic response is your autonomic nervous system. So sympathetic is your adrenals kicking in, the fight or flight response, and the parasympathetic is everything that controls your body. So whether it's hormonal control, whether it's sleep regulation, whether it's immune system, all that is in the parasympathetic.
Okay.
So the longer you stay stuck in the stress response, the less effective the parasympathetic is at restoring normalcy in the body. So some people could take, and that's the thing, is we can take a beating before it's a problem.
Hello.
So that, and hence the point where people come in, and that's the thing we hear the most is yeah, but I've been doing this forever. Yeah. And now your body's like, enough.
Yeah, your body's saying enough.
So
you know,
listen.
that's very powerful. So tip number 1 is recognition, paying attention. I want you to listen to this because it's very important. And number 2 is, in simple terms, is what do you want to do about what's happening? Like, you know, for me, I would add in, what do you need right now? Like, where are you? So where are you and what do you need? Because, and if I understand you, I'll interpret it in my language. Like, when you do that, your adrenals immediately, because this is what happens to me, okay? When I do that, my adrenals immediately calm down because I've heard them.
Yeah.
Like I've heard, you're going too far. So they can just go, okay, I did my job. Okay, she's paying attention right now. She's breathing deeply. Okay, there's an acknowledgement, and my whole system.
Yeah.
Or like if I'm going too hard too fast, because that's a big problem for me. I'm like, I'm maverick. I have energy and limitless possibilities. Like, no, I don't. Like I'm like killing myself with overgiving, overdoing, over helping, you know, like carrying the world. No, whoa, you know. So that the adrenals are really like a messenger when we've taken a long time to listen, or our lives aren't set up that we're naturally feeding what we need. Right? Because of a variety of reasons. And so it's so important to have that self-acknowledgement and that awareness, right?
Yeah. And it, again, it's not something, I don't want people to think that it's something we need to avoid. It's not, because there's a purpose to that being there. Okay. It's the fuel to you taking action.
Okay. Oh.
Then it's the, okay, well, I can take action, but I can do it in a less constructive way, or I can do it in a more mindful way.
Great. That's a great way of looking at it. I get it totally. So it's like listening says, oh, I need some action here
Yes.
also. Okay. So
Yeah,
to
for
look at it
sure.
from this positive perspective versus letting it go all the way to the worst perspective. Because I've been having these weekend calls and with a group of people, it's like sometimes 40, 50 people show up. And I'm
Hmm.
telling you, like the stuff they're worried about. So this is part of why, and I'm sure you're going through that too with people that, and your
Yep.
clients and just what's going on during these times, which I really think is important to talk about. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because when you have and I want your opinion, I really want your insight into when you have like a physical response to a lot of, systematic breakdown that we're used to,
Yep.
the adrenals, are they going through a global awareness also? Like, do we actually, or is it like how we're perceiving what's going on? You know what
Well,
I mean?
I think like you said, everything being energy, for sure there's a
Okay.
global response, a global influence to what you're perceiving, for sure.
Yes.
Um, and I had something in my head I wanted to say about that. Um, yeah, so for sure, yes, there is a global response to that.
Yeah.
Um, what were you saying before that? I forgot what I wanted to say here.
I was saying, do we like feel that when everybody's going through something
Yeah,
in a global consciousness way and a human way, because I think we're all connected as human beings, and
sure.
all our systems have changed in this
Yeah,
moment, and we're in the
that's
real
what
unknown, right?
That's
Okay.
what it was.
Yeah.
So the unknown. There you go. I think that is what's most troubling for everyone else is,
Okay.
um, I think most people, um, myself included, like I have to challenge myself sometimes to get out of my comfort zone, and go into places where, I'm not really comfortable, and and challenge myself into doing something different. But
Yeah.
being in that unknown,
Hmm.
like this situation right now, creates a lot of fear in people because they don't like that. They like being in
Exactly.
their comfort, their routine, their oh, I go to work and then this happens. It's like a kid, like a kids feel comfortable when there's a routine going on, right?
Yeah.
But the most, reward and the most, uh, satisfaction from life comes from letting yourself go into those places of the unknown, where you're taking a chance, where you're pushing yourself to do new things, where you're trying out something to challenge yourself. Like,
So good.
I think that's why this time is amazing, because it's actually giving people that the time to do it, if they
Yes.
choose to, if they
Yes.
choose to. But, um that would, yeah, that's what we've been trying to pump out through the clinic too, is for people to take that time now, instead of thinking like, okay, well,
When's it going to end? When's it going to end? Why is this happening?
yeah,
Right? Instead, to
yeah,
say this is a time for
yeah,
us.
yeah, and I think everyone was, you know, whether we want to admit it or not, we needed a change, we needed a change of mindset.
For sure.
um, I think the earth was listening, and they're just telling us basically,
Yeah.
here you go.
I try
And
to explain that to people like a little bit because of what I've learned over the years is like Mother Nature, like we belong to her. It's not
yeah,
like just because we're conscious evolutionary people, we belong to her. When we're out of control, I mean, sometimes she's going to come in and go, hey, this is my house.
yeah,
Don't dirty it. Because
yeah, for
if you're
sure.
going to continue going off track, things will equalize you. I will rebalance.
That's right.
It's
And
like,
that,
and I don't
this is
mean to
what
hurt
this is
you, but
creating.
right? That's the way the system is created. Exactly.
Well, and this is what this is creating, is it's
Okay.
creating circumstance,
Yeah.
for people to have to change and adapt and, redefine themselves, whether it's through business or, anything else.
Yeah.
Uh, and that really scares a lot of people, just because they're used to, things running the way that they normally do.
Yeah.
And when you have to, go through that change again, that's when people get stuck in their mind again, which
Hmm.
is again falling into the adrenal system and everything else too. So catching yourself and saying, okay, well, let's just, reconnect, rethink about what the possibilities are, and then have a routine to focus on that and drive it in the right direction. Uh,
I love it.
so yeah,
A
that's
great
kind of
focus
what,
point. And
yeah,
two, like what you said before, which was to me really powerful, because I've been saying the same thing. Like people are like, oh no, but there's blah, 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 blah. I'm like, just go back to your breath
yeah,
and like just tap on your heart, bring yourself back. Cause like you, and I tell people like, touch yourself, tap on your body when you're there, like just you're here right now, like breathe, like come back in, don't fly. Don't
yeah,
fly out, because it's in this moment you're going to hear what to do.
yeah,
You're in the unknown no matter what, but you're going to hear what you need to do. Not what
yeah.
they need to do and what the world needs to do, what you need to do. So, I mean, we're on the same page in that way, because you can't change your mind. You can't ask these powerful questions if you just don't get in for a moment. Just that
And,
one moment. That's
and
all it takes, right?
that's where all the answers are.
Yeah.
So, but
Yes.
yeah, so trusting in that process
Yeah.
is can be very difficult for a lot of people, because they're, number one, that puts 100, which it should be 100% of the responsibility on you,
Mm,
not someone else. And
yes.
don't get me wrong, you can get help and have people guide you,
Yeah.
and you know, we've talked many times,
Yeah.
for myself as well, and I always looked at it that way, and I really appreciated it, was that it would just give me another way of seeing something
Hmm.
and being able to mold it into something that could drive me somewhere different.
Yeah. Yeah. We've had a lot of good conversations together about things that are really valuable and important to
Yeah.
people, and it is like, that's the other thing, like that, because I think this is part of what we're talking about is communicate what you're going through, like communicate,
Mm,
like let yourself have tribal talks.
yeah.
Not like what's going on and why, and no, but like what can we change? Like take your questions here and come back to it and go, what can we, like you're doing with your wife, like what can we do differently right now? What
Mm,
do we really need all of this stuff?
hmm.
How can we go back to nature? What can we control? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's okay to know. It's okay to get back into the basis of who we are, because that's what Mother Nature's giving us, is that chance to re-acknowledge we're a species.
Yeah.
And what are we doing with our ability to go to other levels of thought and creativity and consciousness, which is different than
Yeah.
maybe other species here? I think it's just, and I think it's like, do it personally, right? Take all the questions we've talked about and you've brought up here, take it to your person, your personal life, and
Yeah.
the expansion of life. Like, what can you do differently for everybody else? Like, one thing that came up for me in one talk that I had a couple of weeks ago was telling the group, because they were like, me, and what about me, and what about me? And I'm like, when was the last time that you asked your soul or the universe what you could do for it and that? And they
Mm,
were like, I said, right? It's not just about you. Like in this unknown space, you get to be a contributor at all these levels of yourself. Like it's okay, it's exciting. It's not so bad. You know what I mean? So this has been very helpful. And I love the talk about the adrenals too, because to me the adrenals are a messenger. I've always, when you taught me about it, I've always felt that, and I didn't take it seriously until I hit my own walls. I really didn't, because I had an enormous supply of courage, like
yeah.
almost too much, and that didn't help me. It didn't help me. It's like you gotta calm down. And menopause, I gotta tell you, buddy, menopause now, when I don't like something, my adrenals go hot flash, and now I'm like, oh, I think there's something that I don't like what's happening here, and my body's like, I don't care what you're doing, you're now officially croning and owning yourself again, because that's what, to me, women do. They come back to, I mean, any level of self-ownership is really important. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But for a woman under the conditions of change, that life change, you would get our body back, because when you're going through this, you don't really own your body. The world owns your body, because you're creating children. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, so I think anytime, especially now, it's like the rebirth of what we have here is the same process over and over, like just coming back home. Like, and I love the part about filling yourself up with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's powerful. Like, and visualizing it, like if you could explain the visualization, it's like coming back on
Sure.
the heart, and from the heart, because I know what I would do, but do you have like something that you encourage that's done from that point? You bring your attention back here, and then do you spread inside your own being?
Yeah, it's exactly it. It's
Okay.
exactly it.
Okay.
So we call it the heart focus technique.
Okay.
Is something that even Dr. Fulford, who was an osteopath in the States, was doing back in the
Okay.
early 1900s. So like so the basis of it is I'll if I have someone lying down and I want to show them this, sometimes
Okay.
what I'll do too, to kind of make them realize that to prove a point about if it's working or not. You
Mm-hmm.
could even do muscle testing to help people see it, depending if that's the way they need to understand it. Other people don't. Doesn't really matter as long as they get it. So that's one thing that's key is that we could talk about after is how do you have to change your, which I'm sure you do, is change your approach depending on who you're talking to. I
Yeah.
really think that makes a difference in the success
Yeah.
of something
Yeah.
working. They need to hear it in a way they're going to understand,
Yeah.
obviously, and move forward from that.
Yeah.
But it would be exactly getting that feeling of love or gratitude and really feeling it. So normally what I'll do is I'll have my hands on them while they're doing this, so I'm not telling them, but I'm trying to see if they're cheating. So
I knew you were gonna say that. You're like, I could tell if you're really doing it
these
or not.
people could fake it, but um, so yeah, so then it's guiding them through the process. It's just saying, okay, so I want you to think of a person, place, event, whatever it is, doesn't matter, that you really felt that emotion um, of love or gratitude. And so I get the person to close their eyes, and then I say, okay, now focus on that feeling you have in your chest. Let it expand inside your chest. Sometimes, they'll say, well, oh, it's almost like water running through the rest of their body. I said, sure, whatever you want. Just fill it up, let it go everywhere. Even sometimes, depending on who's there, we could say, okay, go a little further. You can expand into the room. It's just about that feeling of occupying that space.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the way I always saw it, whether I'm right or wrong. I don't know. Occupying your space and giving off who you are
Yes.
is your protection,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes. I love
So,
it.
so yeah.
Oh, so good. That was so good. Because one of the things I was thinking about, so one thing that I teach in some of the courses that I have is spiritual practice courses, like it's, empowering yourself, you know, in being a sensitive cosmic being. Like, I mean, like that's
Yeah.
you're not just a human, is
Yeah.
like outside in, inside out energy. And you can't just have one without the other, because if you're not filled in your space, then all this outside energy is just attaching itself to you and like pounding you down. If you're filled from the inside out, then that's how you emanate and you embody yourself, and then people feel you. They know when you're retracted. They know when you don't have to say words like, oh, no, you're good, you don't want me to hang out.
Well,
You
and
know,
I've done that test with people too, where I'll tell them, I
yeah,
said, the ones that do suck the energy out of you, if you do this, I promise you, they will treat you differently.
I
Most
love it.
often
Did you hear
they'll be
that,
mad.
folks? Did you
Most
hear
often they'll
that?
be mad. They will
Did you
be
hear
mad,
that? Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because
So
they can't
that's
do
the
it.
result, right? Is when you do it, you'll see the people around you
Yeah.
are going to be like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So
And
you
it
can
almost
tell.
at an unconscious level where they're used to sucking the energy out of you. Now
Yeah.
they can't, and they're wondering why. So it
Yeah.
makes them frustrated.
And so you'll
They
know
probably
right
couldn't even explain it to you why they're mad, but that's it.
you'll see it in their behavior. So that's a
Sure.
great way to, without words, just notice if you're doing a good job
Yeah.
at filling your space with yourself and taking your power back inside. That's awesome. So good. I'm telling you, so good, because I think that these are critical conversations for people and what they're going through now and all the time. How do you
Mm.
avoid like places that you just don't want to be in your life, inside your body, inside your what you're going through, like how to just become more empowered in all these ways. So it's so good, because I know like and what I recommend all of you do is go click one of the links below and get connected to the clinic and Kevin and start asking him questions from this this podcast about all these
Yeah.
things that he's talking about, so that he'll share them on his podcast.
Yeah.
We'll just spread the wealth of knowledge from just being inspired from these conversations, which
Yeah.
is really important, really, really
Yeah.
important. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, is there anything else that you would just want to recommend or like about this conversation or about that what they can do or you're good?
Well, for sure, we have a ton of stuff at the clinic, video and blogs and stuff like that about this topic for sure.
Go
So there's
check it
definitely
out.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, lately we've been working on this podcast for other professionals in the field,
Okay. Oh, this
specifically osteopaths.
yes, this is exciting. Let's go.
Yeah. So this one's been fun. It's been in the works for a while, and so I'm doing it with two other colleagues of mine, and all of us have 3 kids each. We've
That's
been kind of busy a little bit with kids. So now like most people, this crisis too really gave us a kick in the butt to get things started. So we have that out there, and we're basically talking exactly about what we're talking now: how to make true connections with people.
Yep.
What the main purpose is, I'd be going to courses, and people would often ask, how are you so busy? I never really knew how to answer that question, to be honest, until I started thinking about, well, what is it that I'm doing, and then I started making note of just the way I would go about an appointment, the way I treated a person, and so we're trying to develop these modules. We're almost done now to help. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're
It's happening. It's gonna
it's
happen.
almost finished.
It's gonna happen, folks. Yeah.
Yeah. So the podcast is basically discussing open form about these topics and helping people
Totally.
get connected to their patient. How do they personally get connected to have the business that they want to have, and not particularly what they thought they should have? There's a lot of people that are in business too, and they're doing it in a particular way because maybe they're scared to do it in another way.
Yeah. They
So
don't
we're
know.
trying to give help and framework for that to happen.
Yeah. So like kind of being in your authenticity as you build your business practice and how to do that. Because I know you guys and that's what you're all about. So
Yeah.
and how you leverage and what you do and the kind of energy and how you show up in the
Yeah.
practice itself and how you treat clients and how you show up in a session. So this is literally good, in my opinion. This is, so listen up, you healers and you coaches, because I have a lot of them listening to this podcast. This is really important. So the name of your podcast, first of all, is
The Osteo Connection.
perfect. So anybody can listen to it
Yeah.
who has this type of practice. I'm 100% sure you guys are giving it away and giving
Yep.
great techniques and advice. And
Absolutely.
then the course creation is called, which is like so good. I'm gonna let you say it.
It's called AMO.
Yes,
So,
I love it.
so it's advanced mentorship for osteopaths. But again, yeah, it translates to many disciplines. But
Yeah.
it's just, we decided the AMO sounded good. So
It's really important, it's very important that you're doing this work and that you're with your colleagues and with who you are and your experience going to help people bring more awareness of authenticity and consciousness to their practice with like real practical things they can do. Because it's interesting, you said, I don't know, how did these things happen? Because I know you've always been successful, like pretty much right away. I know that from, because I've known you for a long time. And, this has just been a growing and growing clinic and a growing and growing environment. And you've have colleagues who've also inspired that growth, and like your community is amazing. And people don't realize that there's all these options. They're just stuck in one option. So the transmission of that information and helping elevate other coaches, healers, osteopaths. I know you're focused on osteopaths because that's your work, but helping anybody who's helping anybody.
Oh yeah.
And do it from this place of,
it's the same formula.
yes, it's 100% the same formula, 100%. So guys, you got to check this out because that's really, really important. Very, 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 very important. So I'm excited. I can't wait. Ammo, like, it's the best.
Yeah. And us, we definitely, there is a bit of humor in there as well.
Yeah. You're really holding yourself steady in this podcast with me right now, because normally
we have to be careful. It is, it is trying to be professional, but yeah, we definitely make fun of each other quite a bit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you do. And it's great because we need to lighten up. I mean, that's what enlightenment is,
Sure.
This journey is like a big one, right?
Of
It's
course.
really a big one. So, and I want to know more about this. I want to know what else is really important for you at this time that you want to share with, and for me, this is key, parents who are going through this,
Yeah.
like 3 kids at home, like, is there anything you could tell them about really interesting ways that they can show up to this experience, differently?
Well, I think it's like what we were chatting about before. If we can get down to um, really, recognizing what we want and what we need as a person, that will translate into everything else. So having things, I really, what we're trying to put out are just what are some ways that people can do that
Hmm.
um, to to optimize the situation. I would say,
Yes. Great.
so we give people different techniques all the time because not everyone's the same, and
Yeah.
some people are like, oh, I tried meditation, it didn't work. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, join the club. I said it's you're not going to reach a point where it's working. You're just going to do it. It's a practice. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
um, and I really think, from my viewpoint, what I'm trying to do is I think the more educated people are
Mm.
about the impacts of these things, and I don't think people realize the maybe more on your end of things maybe, but a lot of people don't realize the impact our mind has on our physical body. So
Yep.
to be able to teach them that and show them examples clearly, that they've gone through, and it's true. Yeah, when I was really stressed like that, my back was worse, and this did feel like that, and nothing was working out, and I kept snowballing into this like madness of, oh, it's that guy's fault, and this is, oh well, that's because of this. And well,
Yeah.
I think ultimately it's to say, shut up, take a step back,
Yeah.
and take responsibility for the fact that it's the way that you're processing at that particular time, which is usually repetitive.
Yeah.
All our belief systems and things like that we convince ourselves are, oh well, yeah, but my mom's like that, so I'm gonna, oh, okay, so you decided to do the same thing. That's great. Well, why don't you
Yeah, and
maybe
that's
do something
exactly what
different?
happens when he talks to me, for sure. Yeah. Oh, you're gonna do the same thing again.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think if people are honest with that, they will have way bigger impacts on what they want to do with life, and their families and their work and everything else too. So
And the
that would be
rewards are what? Like the rewards, I know for me, I'll speak for myself, and just, having help and support from you and other people. And I know giving it to people that are working, and getting it from me, the rewards for other people, what they go through from having a change in thinking and having a change of focus, and looking at responsibility in a way of like, you're actually filling yourself up with yourself, which is how you were born. You know what I mean? And what you're actually meant to do, if you want to look for a real purpose, like that's your purpose, is to be
yeah,
totally embodied in yourself.
yeah,
And then whatever you want to do, it's like open game. Like if you're fully present in who you are, hey, you know what I mean? And reconnect to that truth, because that's just a fact. It's not like, you look at a child, like you have 3 kids, each one is totally different. No,
yeah,
right? Like, how did that happen? Because they're perfectly aware of who they are.
yeah.
It's like, and they have their own challenges. And so if we remember that and come back to that space and do the reconnection, because responsibility is just like, to me, a response in how we live and what we understand, you know what I mean? And
Sure.
how we understand it. So I think it's like,
But
it's key.
and it's
Key.
always like that analogy of throwing the rock in the pond, where you'll have that ripple effect, like
Yeah.
you doing that, taking the time to to be your authentic self, causes that ripple around you, and that's what's satisfying, as
Mm-hmm.
what I um, you know try and be. I remember early on when taking courses and asking someone at one point, I said, what did you do to always be here when you're treating?
Yeah.
And they kind of looked at me like, I try and live like that. I'm like, oh, right.
Oh, that.
Oh, you mean all the
Oh,
time? Okay.
you
Oh
like
yeah.
you like live it. You live it every day. Oh, okay, I got you. That's
Yes.
the other thing I want to say about you that I want to share with everybody. Because for me, like one of the most powerful examples I've had of a person making transformation and bringing people to other levels. And one inspiration I've always had from you is like, your desire to consistently grow and to land at spots and just find it uncomfortable to stay there because there's somewhere else to go. And you know it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I appreciate that so much, that you're like a trailblazer and you guys are like trailblazing, and you're going to bring everything you encompass back and give it to other people who are starting, or other people who are struggling in different fields of this work that you do every day and have been doing for a long time. How long have you been doing this work now? You look like you're 20, but
Oh, thank you.
yeah.
19 years.
Wow, incredible. So all that
Yeah.
experience, you guys, like all that experience. So you definitely, if you're in a position that, you know, you want to learn more and you want to start your practice on good grounds, if you're an osteo and you're listening to this, and please take advantage of just connecting with these guys there and Kevin here. It's they're amazing, honestly.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Wow.
It's a really fun project.
And
We've
it's
had people even in like it just started, and we had a few people from the States asking if they could be guests on the show. And these are students that are in medical school taking osteopathy in the States, because it's a little bit different in the States. They're doctors versus here we're not.
okay.
So yeah, so we're really excited about where it's going, and it's very, very fun. It's very fun. Yeah.
I love it, and you're so evolutionary, honestly. Like,
Thank you.
I mean, it's incredible, you know, and to see even the clinic continue to grow and expand, and you guys just being contributors, and you're going to make an impact, a powerful impact. And I know the reason, and I think it's important to register this, is like the reason you got inspired is because I know you have seen what people go through, like, you know, and you've seen how people struggle to make their own business thrive in this field. And I know you want to see them thrive because they're needed. You know,
yeah,
they're needed.
absolutely.
Like we all need support and help, you know?
And I think it translates back to what you were saying before, you know, what's the goal? Well, you know, the satisfaction I get from working with someone and seeing them get it. You know, if we can help other practitioners put that into their business, you know, it's just going to grow the profession. It's going to, you know, bring some legitimacy to what we're doing, and hopefully grow it way beyond what it is right now.
You'd be trailblazers. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I love it. Okay, so I want to end our conversation, and I'm going to make sure you come on the show again, and I'm going to make sure everybody knows where to harass you for all kinds of info, and I'll post everything there, you guys. So you check; it's going to all be there. Is this so? 2 questions. One, what makes you unstoppable? Because you are. And
I'm very stubborn. My wife's not listening.
No, don't.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm slightly driven. It's funny. I always laugh because I had my financial advisor tends to remind me of my stubbornness quite a bit, and he said, because, you know, I'm gonna get you to do this, you know, personality profiling thing. I think you'll find it interesting. I'm like, oh, okay. Anyway, so I do it, and like one of the, he was laughing. He highlights this one phrase, and it's saying, Kevin will listen to other people's opinions, but will rarely implement them. I was like, oh, nice.
True.
So, joking aside, I think I just, I really love what I do. I just want it to be better. So the more we can give to that, the better. Then all good.
Yeah. So that's to me, like if I would classify where I think you're unstoppable is right there for 2 things. One is like you've turned that stubbornness into perseverance. It's not just stubbornness. It's like, yeah, well, I hear what you say, but now I'm going to think about it, and I'm going to take this somewhere. If it resonates with me, I'm going to go somewhere. And your relentless heart, like, dude, like you really care about people. Like you really do. You care about like each individual making a difference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's important for all of us, because we've had these conversations, and to me, you're aware of the consciousness, like of everything, of that oneness even the bad parts, you know,
Yeah.
and you're driven to me to like, and I look at you, I'm like, I see a person driven to make a difference
Well, we
in a
have to
way
be the
that's
change.
effective, right?
Yeah.
That it's not
I
just
think,
bullshit.
I think, well, number one, I have to say you helped me with that tremendously.
Thank you.
Um,
I adore you.
Having my kids has taught me mm, a lot about patience and and really thinking too that, you know, why would I expect something out of them if I'm not doing it?
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yep.
so I think we really have to be that change we want to see in people, you know. So
Yeah.
the more we can do that, that ripple effect will be very, very big and hopefully impact a lot of people along the way.
Yeah. That's awesome. And what are you the most grateful for right now?
Mm.
Apart from me, of course. No. No.
Well, right now, honestly, the time with my family has been really, really good. Yeah, this having this amount of time to actually reflect and spend time with the kids and do some different work that I'm, you know, never really have that much time to do
Yeah.
has been really great,
That's
and
awesome.
it's been very motivating. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Nice deep
Yeah.
appreciation for what we're in, you know,
Yeah.
even though it's difficult, just finding the best in it. That's great. Well, you know that I think you're unbelievable.
Likewise.
I'm so happy. Thank you. I'm so happy that we shared this time, and I'll definitely make
Yeah.
sure to come back on and we get to talk even more. But I thank you so much for everybody on helping people understand a little bit more about what they can do right now and how to
Sure.
understand their reactions and just have some really important ways of being that they matter. They really, really matter. So thank you. And you know, I
My
appreciate you
pleasure.
so much, and we're going to see you really soon. And to everybody out there, thank you for listening. And don't forget to go check out my dear friend Kevin here and his clinic and all his peeps because they're incredible. And if you're in the Montreal area, oh, you want to go to this place. I'm going to tell you right now. For real. For real.
Thanks, Lise.
Thanks so much. Bye for
My
now.
pleasure.
See you soon.
Bye.